guys, today's video we're going to talk about the 3 different variations of the Mega G chassis. So we're including the Mega G Plus in this just because that is an iteration of the platform. So I'm not 100% sure on dates and time frames and whatnot, but I'm just going to share with you what I know about them. So first up, we have the original Mega G Plus. So the easiest way to tell the original is it will have pockets back here, or cutouts, sorry, where the traction magnets go, and it'll also have kind of a full frame that covers the motor. These are super rare nowadays. The original Red Bull car had that chassis. These are all 1.7 inch too, by the way, but the same applies to the 1.5s. This is what you'd find under the Red Bull body. I believe there was a green Aussie Vineyards. I believe there was a Fourth Sight and an Amjet that was red and black. So, which I have all of those cars, but this just happens to be an extra chassis. So, that did not last very long with the magnet cutouts like that. And at some point around 2010, 2012, they went to this unit here, which is what most people are going to be familiar with. So as you can see, the magnets are not as exposed as they are on the original Mega G, and they were a little bit more captured in there. Also on the top side, you don't have this kind of a motor clip holding the magnets in there. The magnets do kind of pop down in there, so it's a little bit different setup, but kind of uses all the same parts still for the most part. One thing that I used to do on these things, because when I first got into hardcore racing in around 2010-ish, the Pro Hard Body class, which was running F1 bodies, you could run the Mega G, you could run any of the F1 bodies. So it was any stock cars, but there was different mods allowed for each one to create parity. On these, you could actually lower the traction magnets and glue them in. So I used to open these windows up with an X-Acto knife, and I would actually lower the traction magnets. So I found that running them flush, it was way too much magnet for the car and they would burn up. So I would actually put a 15,000 spacer in there and then glue them in place 15,000ths up, which probably was pretty close to where they were stock. It might have been a 5,000 spacer. I don't remember. It was like 15 years ago and 4 kids ago, a couple of businesses ago. It was a long time ago. Okay, that's the point. But yeah, these cars were a lot of fun. There was some key things that we used to do to them, and there is some key things that I will point out that I would say were kind of a weakness for them. So one thing that was a major weakness was that it only had one path for the electricity, which is where the brush barrels are, or sorry, where the pickup shoes wrap the brush barrels. If the shoe lifted off of there like so, you would lose power. Like the car would just stop. So on most modern platforms, you will have something that connects the top of the pickup spring to the electrical also. And that way, if the shoe is floating, because the shoe technically is meant to float, the electricity will flow through the spring and into the brush barrels. So one thing that I used to do on these things is I actually would take a lifelike M chassis spring, because they have it's a coil spring, but it also has an extension on it. And I would cut a little slit right here, and that little spring would run up here. I also would make those springs, because they started to get hard to find, I would make them out of G Plus springs. I would just straighten out the spring and make it function just like a lifelike M chassis. And that cured all electrical problems. It didn't matter at that point if the shoes got tweaked. I mean, these things, if the shoe got tweaked or anything happened to it, it was a disaster. But once you did that spring system, no problems, everything was all good. So the other thing that you would want to do on these if you're racing these is a little dab of super glue on the top of the front and rear bushing, okay? There's nothing, they're just popped in there. So in a hard crash, the motor would just pop out. Sometimes if it popped out far enough, the brushes would slap together, and which isn't good. But then somebody would pop the motor back down, break the brushes out of it. It was a total disaster. So if you are playing around with these, put a little bit of glue on there. Don't put too much glue or you're literally going to be screwed. You're going to glue your whole car together. You don't want to do that. But they can be a lot of fun. One last thing is these had, because they are brush barrel timed, they use a, the arms can be used in a Tyco or any other brush barrel setup. And this was before Viper made, this was really before Viper made anything. But this was, at the time, I would use this armature because it was right around 6 ohms in Tycos, in Wizard Super Stocks, anything brush barrel, because at that time there was nothing that close. All of the Tyco arms, all the Wizard arms, they were all like 6.3 to 6.5 ohms. So that was something that was pretty cool. You can use this armature in a original Aurora G Plus also, because they are brush barrel. You might have to trim the shaft, but I mean, it's not anything special. I wouldn't recommend, if you have these, I would just leave them the way that they are nowadays, because they are pretty rare. They can still be fun, but like, there's better parts available now. We made better stuff, so I wouldn't pilfer one of these cars for the armature. But if you want to have some good runners, I definitely would do the spring mod, and which, maybe someday we could do a video on that. I probably wouldn't lower the magnets. I would just put a set of 52s in it. And the other thing these things were notorious for was being really, really light on the front end, because the magnets are so far back there. See how this, I'm barely putting any pressure on this to raise that up. That was a huge problem. So we would actually, at the time there wasn't any brass front ends available. I would machine brass tubes that went over the front axle to just add more weight up front. Or I would put a little bit of weight in the body, but you want to keep that weight as low as possible. So that's kind of the Mega G in a nutshell. And then the Mega G Plus, most of you guys are going to be familiar with this car nowadays. It's got the can motor. Everybody hates the can motor. Wah, 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 wah. You can literally remove the can motor and you can pop the tabs and you can pull it apart just like any other motor. Now, doesn't mean there's upgrades for armatures and that kind of stuff, but you can still take it apart. Like, don't feel like you can't do that. We did just start carrying the Jag Hobbies motor replacement. It's an OEM motor replacement, but the fact that guys can get those, hopefully now they start exploring, popping the cans open and checking them. I mean, this is basically I would say it's a improved version of a drone motor. So it is called an N20. It does have carbon brushes. Most of the N20 carbon brush, or most of the N20 motors that are out there, they're like rated for, 1 cell LiPo, which is 3.7 volts. If you put it in here and ran it on 18 volts, it's gonna grenade immediately. So if you can find a 12 volt version and a brushed version, definitely use that. But there are motors out there. There's not a lot of applications for them. So I think that it was like there's like a credit card receipt printer uses this motor, a couple of those models. I went through and bought a bunch of different motors at one point and just kind of was like, you know what? It's not worth it. If you want it to look, if you're looking at having something that looks really good like this, just keep it the way that it is. We make enough upgrades for it now to where the motor can stay stock. And if that's the one thing that does stay stock in the class, if you are running a class for it, then there's nothing wrong with that. Once you start getting into different motors and stuff, I think that's where you can start to lose people, you know, and the whole point of this hobby and the whole point of classes where you would run something like this is that somebody could buy the car for 40 bucks and essentially put it on the track and run it, which isn't the case because you're going to want to fix these wobbly freaking rims and tires. You're going to want to fix this crappy pinion gear. I'm not going to go on too much about it. You guys know the deal with these things, but they did improve the electrical system, so that is great. And it's pretty much, that's the car that is now available. I believe the Jag PR5 chassis does fit under these bodies, so if you wanted a high performance or a higher performance car, you could definitely do that. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. We can go run them up on the test track real quick if you just want to kind of see or hear what the cars sound like. These two are stock. This one does have a front end and a set of rear tires on it, probably rims and tires. So, but we can just go test anyways. We're not going to compare times or anything like that. So it's just for you guys to view and enjoy. All right, we're at the track. We're going to run the original. This is on 12 volts. It's pretty fast. I mean, if you want to video my finger ripping some laps. So hitting the straight, blipping in the corner, and then it's just a rhythm of coming back into it. But pretty nice, you know, nice car. Already a little bit warm. Next up is that was the original Mega G version 1. This is original Mega G version 2. So I can tell, you know, this car, because it has stock wheels and tires, it's a lot freer. But I mean, it rips, you know, like they do good. It's just one crash, pickup shoes tweaked, and it's over. So something to note too is the sound of the car and the responsiveness. Now we're going to be driving the Mega G Plus, which I'm barely touching the trigger for this thing to go because this motor is very, very like non-linear. It's just power. That's it. That's what it's got. So I'm barely touching the throttle. Can't really drive it. And even if I do give it full throttle, it really doesn't have any it doesn't have any power there. It's already at its RPM. It's like a friggin' diesel tractor motor in a hot rod. So be great if, you know, we could get back to some of the high performance stuff, especially if you're going to claim that, you know, it's the fastest production slot car ever made. Like, we prove that false. It's, you know, there's improvements, which I think if you kind of combined the benefits of the Mega G and the Mega G Plus, you might have something that's really good, kind of a platform to go off of. But yeah. That's kind of my 2 cents on it. If you guys have any thing that you'd like to add to that, throw it in the comments, and we'll see you on the next one. She's in jail.
Sadie.
What one's your favorite? The thumb? She likes the thumb.